This episode of FilmRiot is brought to you by Domain.com.
Today on FilmRiot, we review another piece of gear goodness. Welcome to FilmRiot, the show that takes mystery out of the effects and techniques. Go to some of your favorite Hollywood films. I'm your host, Ryan Conley. And the best way to do handheld shots when shooting with smaller cameras, like most of us do, like DSLRs or my C100, is to kit it out and give it a bit more weight, and you move your hands away from the camera's sensor. To do this, you need to get yourself a solid rig of some kind. Lately, I've been testing out a new rig from Rhino Camera, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So to start us off, as always, I'm making exactly zero money from this review. This is entirely 100% my true opinion. I will never make money off reviews, and this is extra important to say today because I'm about to love all over this thing. My Rhino rig came in this lovely case right here, all in pieces, which was refreshingly easy to set up. With a lot of pro rigs, with a lot of pro shoulder rigs anyway, it can get a little frustrating the first time you put it together. Whereas with this rig, it was entirely intuitive and simple. And this thing is very modular. There's a ton of ways that you can configure it, from the fully kitted out version, shoulder mounted with the cage, or without the cage, or you could even replace the shoulder pads with the buttstock.
Buttstock.
I knew you were not gonna let that go.
Buttstock.
Then you have the handles, which can be moved around to almost any position that you want, or take the extenders to bring the grips tight to the center piece, or get super trimmed down and operate with the cage only. It's just all sorts of crazy versatile. But let's jump back to the fully kitted out setup. What I really dig, and is one of the many unique things about this rig, is the shoulder pad, which is made up of a bunch of adjustable joints and these TPR pads. So I'll loosen all the joints here, then sling it over my shoulder so that it forms perfectly to my shoulder, then have someone else tighten it up for me, and now I have it fitting perfectly to my shoulder, and I love this. The shoulder pads are comfortable, and above them you can see that we have places to mount additional gear like audio packs and so on.
Buttstock.
Stop. To balance out the system, they have a 5-pound counterbalance. Screw that to the back, and then the whole system starts feeling really great. It also has this area here to be able to attach a battery mount there, which will add more weight if need be to balance it even more. Then of course you have the cage, and up top you have the cheese plate for mounting all the extra goodies that you would need, like your monitor, or in my case, a monitor recorder. With my C100, I'll also mount my handle with the audio inputs to the top with these included cold shoe mounts that I can screw into the cage. And finally, there is the rail system, mounted to the bottom like so. Then I can throw on my follow focus, matte box, or if I'm feeling fancy, my anamorphics adapter.
Hey Ryan.
No.
Buttstock.
You. And now we're fully kitted out and ready to go. I really love how this rig feels and how easy it is to configure the way that I want, which for me, I like to flip the left handle around so that I can keep it closer to my body for much more comfortable and smoother shots. Or as the Rhino guys showed in one of their videos, move the handle over to the center so that you can support the rig with just one hand and pull focus with the other. But that is the basics of this rig. My two favorite things about it would be the shoulder pads and how modular it is. But now, a quick break, and then we will do some tests with this bad boy and talk about some cheap and DIY alternatives.
Buttstock!
Okay.
I've been holding that one in.
Yeah, I can see that. Domain.com is a place to go if you're trying to get yourself seen on the interwebs. You got your business or your work that you want to put out there. You need a website. They got the reliable and affordable hosting services. They got the domain discovery service to help you pick the right name for you. And if you use your coupon code FilmRiot at checkout, you get 15% off your domain name and web hosting. So when you think domain names, think Domain.com. I thought this was the time!
Never!
Oh, God! Logo. Not long ago, the way to do the handheld shot was to take the very large camera that you were shooting on, throw it over your shoulder. You had that weight mostly centered on your shoulder, distributed nicely, which allowed for some easy handheld work. But now, mostly we have these cameras like DSLRs that without a rig, getting a handheld shot means holding it out in front of you like this, which does not translate very well for handheld at all. To show what I mean, let's take a look at a few examples with and without the Rhino Rig. You can see that with the shoulder rig, you're getting much more fluid shots. Without the rig and the camera right in your hands, you're gonna get more sharp and distracting movements. And that is with image stabilization on your lens. Without IS, it's impossible to go handheld without a rig, which can be a bummer since a lot of great lenses don't have image stabilization. So let's take a look at this shot here. This is my 85mm Nikon lens, no IS, which I'm holding in my hands and trying to be as still as I possibly can. Even though it looks like I'm purposely trying to shake it, I'm actually holding my breath, trying to keep it as still as possible. And it looks like there's a freaking earthquake happening. Completely unusable unless you want this effect, like being inside a ship that is re-entering Earth's atmosphere, which would be pretty cool actually. But in this case, we're not looking for an effect, so we switch over to the shoulder rig, same lens, still no IS, but now we get a nice and workable shot. Definitely getting a handheld look, a heavy one, which I love, but we aren't getting that insane jitter from our hands transferring to the sensor. And here's another, which we're getting the exact same issue until we jump over to the rig. And you can get this effect from almost any rig. It's really whether you like the functionality of that rig or not. And this rig isn't gonna be for everyone. It's definitely for the more pro uses, since it runs about $1,200 for the full rig, $400 for the base rig, which I know a lot of people are gonna freak out about, but I do consider this to be on the higher end of gear, and when you compare it to others like it, it's a lot more affordable. But it also feels more run and gun, which I love. I'm not sure how well it would work on the very high end, like feature film style, when you need to kit your rig out with basically every piece of gear ever made. So it feels like this one lives somewhere in the filmmaking world between very low budget and big budget, and I would say it's probably my favorite rig of its kind. But again, the cost is gonna keep a few people away, and I understand that this could be too big of a bite for some, so I just wanted to remind you guys of two super low-cost alternatives. First is the Spider Rig, only $45 on Amazon, and it's a pretty solid piece of gear if you're using a light camera like a DSLR. Once you add too much weight to it, it gets a little less useful, but I reviewed it in this episode right here. Or you could save even more money and go the DIY route. We built two different types of DIY PVC shoulder rigs, a more traditional style, and then we came up with one that we called the 50 cal. You can see the 50 cal build right here, and the more traditional style, right here.
Logo.
And that's it for today's episode, and I know a lot of people complain about the price of some gear, and if you're just starting out or just looking at filmmaking as a hobby, you'd be right. But on a more professional scale, at some point you have to start investing in yourself, and some proper gear is a part of that. The way I have always done it is to take extra jobs so that I can get the gear, then let the gear pay for itself through additional jobs. But as always, Twitter right here, and we have all our goodies back in stock in our Triune store, like our Right Shoot Edit Repeat shirt, our Right Shoot Edit Repeat wristbands, our VFX or Die shirt, and of course our digital downloads. So if you're interested in any of those, check it out right here in our store, and I'll see you guys next week when I completely ruin what could have been an amazing movie based on an even more amazing animated show.